when the finished product came out, and man, from a kid growing up, you ask anybody in the world, have you ever been in a movie or have you ever been seen with Bugs Bunny? Regardless of how big or small a role is, yeah. I'm in a movie that's going to play on forever. Bugs Bunny has been living on for 50 plus years. He's going to continue to live on. And kids, when I'm dead and gone, are going to watch this Bugs Bunny movie. That's the biggest achievement that's going to last forever. They still may talk about the blindfold. They still may talk about 50 points. But being in a movie with Bugs Bunny, huge, huge, huge. I have kids. I don't even tell them I'm in the movie. I just let them watch the movie because they want to watch. They see Michael Jordan. They see Bugs Bunny. They want to watch the movie. I pop up in the movie and I am the greatest dad in the world because I'm in a movie with Bugs Bunny. It doesn't get any better than that.
Then you are in Australia right now.
You're talking NBA basketball. You're talking great teams. You're talking great individual players.
Takes it off, and there's number 23, and of course Johnny goes nuts.
So we're all getting goosebumps thinking about it now.
I just tried to go out there and play my game.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Adam. I don't like anybody. I'm not a people person.
Strand, you make the pass, yes. Christian, can you catch the ball? Yes.
All the stars were aligned and all the muscles fired at the right time, and I was able to get off the ground and throw one down.
I was saving that as a surprise for you.
And now, introducing your host for In All Airness, Adam Ryan.
Welcome to episode 59. Thanks for joining me. Stay up to date with my monthly email newsletter. You'll receive exclusive details on upcoming podcast episodes, future high-profile guests to appear on the show, and much more. Simply visit inallairness.com/news. Today, I'm very happy to welcome Cedric Ceballos to the show. Thanks to Paul Corliss and the Retired Players Association team for the assist. Check out legendsofbasketball.com for more. In this conversation, we cover a multitude of topics relating to Ced's great playing career and much more. Also, prepare to unlearn most of what you know about the 1991 NBA Slam Dunk Contest. Some fascinating truths will be revealed. Towards the end of the episode, I'll share one of the greatest podcast reviews of all time. You can add yours by visiting inallairness.com/review. Show notes for this episode, including plenty of links to the topics we've discussed in today's chat, are at inallairness.com/59. Now, onto the show. My guest today is just the second Hawaiian-born NBA player ever. He is an 11-year veteran of the league. He was named an All-Star in 1995 and famously won the 1992 Slam Dunk competition. Cedric Ceballos, thanks for joining me.
No problem, man. I appreciate you having me.
It's great to be able to chat with you today. Now, before we actually get into all things basketball, I know that you have a deep love of music, which goes back to your early years. Do you mind just briefly touching on where that actually first came from?
Wow, it started when I was a kid. So, just the love of music. I started DJing as a kid and, spinning records, scratching the whole hip-hop era. And it just kind of, everybody's dream is to be on stage in front of 30,000 people with a microphone in your hand. So I just had the opportunity to, with the popularity from basketball, to do so. And kind of just ran with it. I had the opportunity to record an album to raise money for charity with the Basketball's Best Kept Secret. A lot of other players were on there: Shaquille O'Neal, Gary Payton, Jason Kidd, a lot of other talented basketball players, who just to try to help out, help our communities, help the world out, raise some funds for a great cause to try to live our dreams.
Who do you think was the most musically minded of those NBA players that you worked with?
Well, obviously myself.
Aside from yourself, of course.
Second to myself, I would probably go Dana Barros. He was pretty good with that. And also, obviously, Shaq. He sold millions and millions of albums. So he's definitely a person who, musically inclined.
Good stuff. Now, researching for our chat today, and I'm sure I read this somewhere in amongst the research, I believe that you were a ball boy at the 1984 LA Olympics. Is that fact or fiction?
Yeah, that's true. I had an opportunity to participate in the Olympics. I didn't apply the job for being a ball boy. They just kind of placed you where you were at. I didn't say I played basketball or I love basketball or even like watching it. I just, put in an application to help out with the Olympics, and they just designated people, I guess, from where they lived, and between USC and the sports arena and UCLA. That's where I had my job. So I had the opportunity to go back and forth. It's funny because, Michael doesn't remember, but Wayman Tisdale, he's not with us anymore, but he remembered me as well as a couple of other guys too.
A great little tidbit there that I discovered before we chatted today, so that's good to know. After starring at Ventura College, where you averaged close to 30 points a game and over 10 rebounds a game, you played your junior and senior seasons with Cal State Fullerton and averaged better than 22 points and 10 rebounds a contest there, so great numbers. Before your college career ended, you had guys like Jerry West, among others, who started scouting your games. What are some of the fondest memories you have from your time in college, Cedric?
Oh, man, I had a blast. It was a great time. When Jerry showed up to the game, it's so funny because I started looking around at my teammates and started looking around at the team that I was playing against and wondering who he was here to see. My coach had to bring me to the sideline and, shake me up a little bit, like, wake up, man. He's here to see you, man. Get it together. And I just, still didn't believe it. But, it was just funny, after playing for Jerry West when I was with the Lakers, he was the general manager there. He can even recall, he said, man, I remember I'll come and watch you play in that little gym, that little hot gym and this, that, and that. And I was going, wow, you don't even know, Jerry. I remember you walking in and the whole place just kind of stopped and I was looking around. He couldn't believe that I thought he was there for somebody else and not myself.
That's great. That's a good story. And I believe you had some particularly great games against the UNLV Running Rebels, who obviously featured Larry Johnson and guys of that stature.
Yeah, I was real comfortable. I was recruited by Las Vegas. I took a trip down there. Tarkanian's a real good friend of mine. He started coaching me, actually.
Okay.
And when I got out of high school, he wasn't my coach, but he just was watching me play one day and just automatically just started teaching. Like, hey, you need to do this and this, that, and the other, not knowing that I was, not the player that I was going to be 2 years later. But, he was just helping me out as a player. And then it's so funny, I just felt really comfortable with those guys. I grew up in the same area as Stacey Augmon. We were good friends and kind of crosstown rivals, so to speak. He ended up beating me in the high school championship game. So just felt really comfortable, and I knew that they were the top team, not only in our conference, but in the world, when it comes to college basketball. So if I was to do well against them, it's kind of like my achievements in college.
And I believe your brother went to Fullerton before you. Did that have a lot of influence on your decision to attend there?
A great influence because, visiting him on campus, I got to see the college life and what it was all about, where he stayed. I watched some of his practices, some of his games, how they treated the players. So I was very comfortable in making that choice and going to Fullerton. And then, the other schools that recruit me were really big schools, like I said, UNLV, UCLA, LSU, really big, huge schools. And I didn't, at that time, I didn't think I was that good of a big time player. And I mean, to be on that level, I knew I wanted to have an opportunity. Going into the NBA was not my goal. My opportunity was just to play 2 years of good college basketball that I had left and hopefully go into radio and television afterwards. So I wanted to play as much as I could. So I knew going to UCLA and Las Vegas and LSU that it may be, I had to work for that position. And it may be a possibility that I may play some, I may play a lot. But going to Cal State Fullerton, they gave me the ball. Even before I signed, they knew it was going to be my team for 2 years, and I was going to be on the floor as much as possible. So I went for the sure thing.
Ah, great. Now, in the 1990 NBA draft, the Phoenix Suns selected you with pick number 48. How were your emotions as the second round commenced and you were ready to hear your name?
Man, I was confused. I had done great in the camps. I was predicted to be a lottery pick because of my numbers. But then again, I still always had in the back of my mind, I'm still at a small school and not as, big time as Larry Johnson, Stacey Augmon, and Gary Payton, Derek Coleman, all those guys that went before me. But I knew I could compete with them. So people telling you going lottery, you want to believe it, but you're not really too sure. So I just dropped the first round, had a lot of emotions, cried. My mom, pulled me back in. It was like, hey, this is what you want to do. You got to man up and, take the good with the bad. And, just dropped all the way to the second to the last pick. But, as soon as I got selected, I knew I was selected to a team that played my type of style and also had an opportunity, maybe not had an opportunity to play, but I was going to have an opportunity to learn from some great veterans, Tom Chambers, Kevin Johnson, Eddie Johnson, Mark West, those guys, Dan Majerle. So that's all I really wanted to do. Just come in, be in shape, work hard, and try to learn as much as possible. Fortunately for myself, I only spent my rookie year on the bench. And the second year, I was, at the end of the season, I was a starter.
Yeah, that's great. And as you mentioned, you joined a very talented Phoenix team that was led by Coach Cotton Fitzsimmons. And the franchise enjoyed 4 consecutive 50-win seasons with Cotton. How did you actually find the adjustment from college to in the NBA?
Well, it's tough. I mean, it's a huge jump from from high school to college because all this time is on your hand, and then from college to NBA, now you got even more time on your hands, but you got to manage it well, and it's no really time to have errors on the court. They want you to be at a high level and professional all the time, and the demands of it is not really time consuming, but when it's time for you to play, they want you to focus and be at your best all the time. So that was a difference. Mostly in college, you can play your way back into, I had a 3, 4, 5 game slump. You can play your way back into it in the NBA. They want you to play well every game. And in games you don't play well, they think something is wrong and somebody else is trying to take your spot.
I'd just like to briefly touch on the slam dunk side of things. In 1991, D. Brown from Jacksonville won the contest at All-Star Weekend with his no-look dunk. You went one better in 1992 with the dunk that you called the Hocus Pocus Jam, and you added a blindfold courtesy of teammate Thunder Dan Majerle. What's your history with creative dunks, and how did that opportunity for you to take part in 1992 in Orlando come to be?
Well, it's so ironic that story played out the way it did. The previous year before we were drafted, we were still in college, and they had the college dunk contest.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a champion of that contest, beating D. Brown. And every dunk that I did in that contest, D. Brown did in the NBA dunk contest.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I pumped up my shoes. He pumped his shoes up. I covered my eyes. He covered his eyes.
Oh, wow.
About 5 or 6 of his dunks that he won with, he stole from me in college when I beat him.
That's incredible. I didn't actually realize that was the case.
Yeah, so when he got the opportunity to be in a dunk contest and I didn't, I was happy for him. But when I saw him doing all my dunks, I said, okay, he's going to have to give me my credit, which he didn't. Like I said, my rookie year, I didn't play a lot. He was playing for a weaker team in Boston. They were rebuilding, so he got to play a lot of minutes. He was a higher draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
He was exposed more, so he used it to his best abilities. Everybody take dunks from everybody and make it their own, but it was ironic because these dunks that he were doing, nobody had ever seen before.
Yeah,
everybody from the Orlando, so it was called the Orlando Classic. Everybody from the Orlando Classic was calling me up and was like, "Yo, he took all your dunks. Like everything that he did, he pumped your shoe. You did that, and he did, and then you did this, and then he did that. He did all your stuff." I was like, "Yeah, but I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm just gonna work hard, get back in the dunk contest, and beat him next year."
Yep.
And that was my question. It was unfortunate that he was hurt. He couldn't participate in the next one. But all the dunks that I did, even in my first dunk contest, it was only one dunk that was done by somebody else. Every other dunk that I did was unique. Nobody has ever even seen before. So I have watched dunk contests for years.
Yep.
And recorded them, studied them. I knew exactly what I was doing when I was going in there. I knew I had to make my mark. I was going against Larry Johnson, Sean Kemp, all these big name all-stars and players, and I knew I had to make my mark some way. I couldn't figure out how I can top my blind dunk that D. Brown did in the previous dunk contest until Magic Johnson, he was retired and was coming back to play in the All-Star game. He was voted in the All-Star game to play. He had retired because of the HIV virus, and we were playing the Lakers in the Forum. I'm a young guy, so I got there early and was working out, and Magic was working out too. And we just started shooting game, and then one thing led to another. And we were playing one-on-one, and then, after a good workout, we started shooting free throws back and forth. He said, "What you gonna do?" D. Brown took it to the whole blind thing, and I didn't really say nothing. That was mine original. I didn't really say nothing. And he was like, "You're gonna have to go to a whole new level and just, really pull something magical out." And so that's when the idea of putting the blindfold on really came about. I went back and started studying with it. Me and the Phoenix Suns gorilla started working on it. We were really failing at it. It wasn't looking good, so I was only going to use it if I was eliminated
Okay.
in the dunk contest. That's why was my intention. It's like, okay, I'm about to be eliminated, so I might as well try to do something to save myself.
Oh, that's great.
I was going to use it then, but I ended up winning the dunk contest. Before I used it, I was already the winner.
So that was the icing on the cake.
This was just the icing on the cake. This was something extra. And I said, go ahead and go for it. So I figure if I made it, great. I mean, it's 20, 25 years later, we're still talking about it. If I would have missed it, I would have missed it really bad. I would have fell all into people and they would have had to bring a stretcher out. It would have been a really big blooper. I would have really played it up. So either way, I knew 20, 25 years later, we would still be talking about either one of the greatest dunks or one of the biggest bloopers. So I was fine with either way.
That's fantastic, and I'm so glad I've had the chance to actually ask you about it in person, because I've always wondered, even since the early 90s, just after it really happened, a whole story behind it. So just to clarify, did you say that D, he actually did give credit in future years, or he hadn't really said much publicly about it?
No, he still hasn't given credit. Every time I see him, I bring it up. We've been on radio shows together, and I confront him with it, and he just gets quiet. Like, he doesn't deny it. Yeah. But he doesn't say that, I'm absolutely right. So, he's going to take it to his grave, and I'm fine with that. He and I both know, and everybody that was in Orlando at the time when they had the college dunk contest, they know on who's the best dunker out of him and me.
Is that the Orlando All-Star Classic that you're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thanks very much for clarifying.
And I'm trying to get footage on that. I know they had it on video, but me and Pat Williams was the vice president and general manager at the time for the Orlando Magic when that happened. We're still trying to find some sort of video of that to prove to everybody that every one of those dunks that you said, like, wow, I can't believe he did that, and he pumping his shoes up, that I did first. Someone's
sitting on some very historical footage if they only realised that they actually had it in their possession. So hopefully that does come to be. That'd be awesome. And coincidentally, D. Brown was actually sitting courtside, well, probably because he won the year before, I guess, next to Magic Johnson at that 92 dunk contest. Did you say anything to him at the time there? I know you pointed towards Magic or D. I couldn't tell who it was, but how was that, sort of seeing D there watching you from the sidelines? Yeah, I pointed towards Magic and dedicated to him. But earlier, before the dunk contest started in the locker room, I told D. Brown what I was going to do. Okay. And he knew about the blindfold. And he was like, oh, okay, all right, I see you. After he won the dunk contest, he knew all the dunks that he did, he got from me. But, it is what it is. I wasn't going to harp on it. Everybody takes dunks from everybody and, tries to make their own out of it. The fact of the matter is that, he knew about it. And then during the broadcast, he was commentating on the dunk contest. You can hear the tone in his voice, just the hate, just like, it's a good idea. Like, okay, that's when I knew I got him right there. Oh, that's fantastic. Absolutely awesome. Now, moving on back to the regular season, prior to the 93 NBA season, your Phoenix Suns made some big changes. Paul Westphal replaced Cotton Fitzsimmons as coach, and then your team moved from Memorial Coliseum to the brand new America West Arena and traded for a guy named Charles Barkley, of course. And before we get to the NBA Finals in 93, I'd just love to hear your take on that transition and the development of your game, because you started almost 50 games in the 93 season and led the whole league in field goal percentage at almost 58%. So can you just talk about that for a moment, please? Yeah, it was just the growth of my game. Like I told you, it's just getting better and learning a lot. When Charles Barkley, my first 2 seasons was pretty good, but when Charles Barkley came, he really took the pressure. He really took the edge. He really gave us the confidence boost to be a dominant team in this league. You need a superstar on your team in the NBA to sway the refs, to sway the crowd, to have somebody double team. When you have a superstar, to have that threat, and he's as good as Charles Barkley was, it takes a lot of pressure off you and off of your team, off of your fans, because he solves a lot of problems. So when he came to the team, it was easy for me now. I just go out and play my game, move, cut, slash, do everything that I normally do. And, ended up averaging pretty high points because of him. Our team was growing. Our team was getting better. We was getting the opportunities but it just didn't matter because we didn't have that star like Charles was. Don't get me wrong. KJ was a star. Tom Chambers was a star. Dan Majerle was, but he wasn't a superstar. And Charles Barkley was a superstar that gave us the edge to play well. Yeah, understood. And you were in a great first-round playoff series in 1993 against the LA Lakers. You dropped the first 2 games at home, and then Coach Westphal famously declared that the Suns would win the series, and that was one of my favourite quotes ever when he did that at that press conference, and then which he did go on to do with an overtime victory in the deciding 5th game. What do you recall of that series and then just the city of Phoenix's expectations of the team? Because you had a really rabid, excitable fan base too. Yeah, just as Coach Westphal made that prediction,
we all felt the same. We knew this, we did a great job in regular season. We ended on a high note by beating Portland in Portland with a shot on the buzzer. We went up to postseason training camp, worked hard, but we were rusty. And the Lakers at that time had nothing to lose. They barely squeaked into the playoffs and they had nothing to lose. And the pressure was on us because we had the best record in the league. We had the MVP of the league on our team. We just took 2 games to shake the jitters off. After we shook the jitters off, our third game and our fourth game was a breeze. And then the 5th game is just the same thing. Pressure is back on us because we're the better team. We got the MVP. And the Lakers just played free. They just played free, no pressure at all. Just, that's why I ended up going to overtime. But when in the overtime, the opportunity for us, the better team pulls out.
When it mattered the most, you got the job done. Now, in an April game against Sacramento, you hurt your left foot and then you re-injured it in Game 6 of the 1993 Western Conference Finals at Seattle. And then I've since read that led to surgery that you had on the day of the 7th and deciding game of the series. So therefore you missed the finals, of course, against Chicago, plus the first 29 games of the 1994 season. This month, it actually is 22 years since those finals. What's your perspective on the team's amazing season, which for you, unfortunately, ended at the worst possible time?
Yeah, I thought we had a great season. Unbelievable. The fans, the players, the game, the excitement. We just happened to run across the greatest player on earth, Michael Jordan, in the finals. Other than that, we would have a championship ring if that guy wasn't playing. But it was disappointing for me. Obviously, I played the whole season with my foot broken.
Oh, right.
It was just a point of when it was going to completely break. And it just so happens in a bad time for us and for a breaking in. Tough situation. If I could go back, and I say this all the time, if I could go back and do it again, I would have just took the cortisone shot and kept playing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I had such great numbers against Scottie Pippen. And for us to have that missing piece in the finals against Michael, I would have wondered would it have been a different outcome. Because my numbers, against Scottie Pippen was, up in the high 30s and the high 10s and 12s with rebounds. I just had great numbers against that guy. And, even to this day when I see him, he's just like, man, I had such a hard time trying to stop you because you move without the ball. You didn't ISO. It's just, you get the shot off so quick. So, it might have been a different outcome. May have been Michael's one and only time that he lost in the NBA finals, but who knows? But, it worked out, I guess perfectly on his side. But for us, it's just, one of the things that you just run with. I mean, we set a record. I don't think anybody has had over 500,000 people at their parade for losing.
That's right.
We lost the championship and we had 600,000 people at our parade. Even having a parade for us losing, that's unheard of. But to have 600,000 people, people win championships and don't have that many people at their parade. So that just goes to show how exciting the season was. How great the fans of Arizona and the worldwide just was behind us and want us to win. It wasn't a good guy, bad guy sort of thing because everybody loved Michael, but and everybody hated Charles, and he's so outrageous. He's so comical and controversy, but just to have the fans to support us like that was just amazing.
Yeah, Phoenix definitely had great supporters, still do to this day. But in the late 80s, early 90s, the era where I'm most fascinated with, you had some fantastic support. Now, Charles Barkley actually was quoted as saying, I think just after the finals, if we had Cedric for the finals, we would have won the world championship. That says a great deal. And of course, it makes perfect sense, of course, that you were unfortunately sitting at the sidelines. What was your actual involvement with the team throughout the finals?
I tried to just give my insight. I started working on television, doing television commentating and sideline reporting, while I was out.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's really nothing I can help out. I can cheer. I can encourage. But it was really nothing that I could do, with a cast on my foot.
Now, Game 6 of the finals ended with KJ's shot being blocked by Chicago's Horace Grant, which gave the Bulls their first three-peat. Just watching from the sidelines and seeing that final play unfold and then the realization that the championship dream had come to an end, at least for that season, what were your thoughts on the closing moments of the series?
It was kind of tough because we struggled. We had a 3 overtime game in Chicago. They were going to riot. when Chicago won the championship in Chicago, we end up not letting them win. We took 2 games in Chicago, so we had a better feeling. We just kind of considered it to be in the same scenario as it was for the first round playoff series against the Lakers. Just us having the jitters the first 2 games at home, being such a big stage that none of us had ever been before.
Mm-hmm.
I think Danny Ainge was the only player who has been to the finals on our team. We just let it get to us. And once we went to Chicago and got away, calmed down, then we started playing our game and we knew we could beat them. But when we came back home, obviously, we played well, and up to the last minute, we played, 47 great minutes of basketball. And that last minute, Michael just drove to the basket full length, got the easy layup, and then we made a mistake of trying to steal the basketball and left John Paxson wide open, and he had the big enough cojones to go ahead and shoot a 3 instead of trying to get a layup. And, he knocks it down. And then it's still disappointing at the end that we didn't, get the shot that we wanted. Ended up getting blocked by Horace. But, great series, great opportunity for us, disappointing for us, and just tried to regroup and never could get that chemistry back that we had that first year.
A flurry of emotions, I guess, in the final moments. In September of 1994, you were traded to the LA Lakers for a first-round draft pick that turned out to be Michael Finley. What did you actually make of the trade to LA and the opportunities that presented by returning back to California?
Well, at the time, I didn't pay no attention to what I got traded for or who or what.
Yeah.
I just was excited to go back home. I was nervous to come home. I was disappointed that I was leaving a team that I thought, I had gotten so much better from my first year playing with Charles to my second year. I started off, I missed I think like 30 games of the season. And then the rest of the way on, I really, became a so-called all-star from the rest of the way on. I think the last part of the season, I was averaging more than 20 points a game, being our second leading scorer, our second leading rebounder. So the tandem, Batman and Robin, with me and Charles was really growing. So I knew me coming into the next season, 94-95, I would be fully healthy. I didn't have to rehab half of the season. I was going to go to training camp and geared up and ready to go. So when the trade happened, I just continued to work hard. And I even worked harder knowing that I was going to a team that was, at the bottom of the barrel. Magic had retired and, James Worthy was getting older and the players were just not there anymore. Byron Scott had left to go to Indiana. So, their championship pedigree, Pat Riley was gone, was just not there anymore, and they were rebuilding. Fortunate for myself, I got to walk into a situation like I did with Cal State Fullerton, where they just handed me the basketball and said, go, you are a leader. Let's see what you can do with it. But in this scenario, I had a great guard, Nick Van Exel, who was on a mission to prove everybody that he wasn't a second-round pick. I had a guy by the name of Eddie Jones, who we drafted, who was on a mission to prove that he was a lottery pick and just not a first-round pick. Vlade Divac and Eldon Campbell, Anthony Peeler, the veteran play of Sam Bowie, being a star for so long in his career and getting injured and having the knowledge to help others. It was just perfect. Jerry West just kind of plucked himself into a great way to put some great people together. And I played, all I had to do was just do what I do best. And I just had more opportunity. In Phoenix, the ball had to go to Charles and then to KJ and then to Dan and then to Tom. And then it got to me. Out of all of that, and I still averaged 20 plus points, I said, man, if the ball is coming through me first, there's no telling what I was going to do. So I just took off and ran with it. Everybody kind of jumped on board and we all just participated in trying to help each other out, knowing that we were coming in the arenas as an underdog and with no regard to anybody. Just, who cares if they're the big bad wolf? We're just going to come in like 3 little pigs and play our butts off.
I love it. I love hearing these recollections of players' careers. So yeah, thanks for sharing these with us. Your first season in LA, you were named to the 1995 All-Star team. The game took place at your previous home in the city of Phoenix there, led by your former coach, Paul Westphal. Unfortunately, you missed the game due to, I think it was a hand injury or thumb surgery.
Yeah.
Just days prior, and you were replaced by Dikembe Mutombo. Can you just describe the feeling of being named an All-Star and recognised for your great play, but having to miss the game due to injury?
Wow, so many emotions in that week. Being named to the All-Star reserve was unbelievable. I had no idea. I was shocked. My coach, Dale Harris, called me early that morning that the list came out. I wasn't even looking to be on the list. I just thought it was so far-fetched and unheard of. I wasn't even looking to be on the list. He called me early that morning, woke me up, and told me it still really didn't set in. Then he made the announcement after shoot around, and it still didn't really kick in. I just couldn't believe it. And then, unfortunately, the disappointing of not being played. Like I said, I was excited and I was disappointed, and I was also frustrated and upset that the person who hurt me gets to replace me in the All-Star game. Dikembe came down and hit me and it injured me, and then he gets to replace me. It was a little difficult to just swallow that. I was happy that I was going back to Phoenix. Hey, you guys didn't want me, and look, I told you I was going to become an All-Star. If I would just stay one more year, it was gratifying. It was fun. It was entertaining. It was great to see all, familiar faces. But it was also kind of good to, hey, I told you I was good. Just kind of show them this is what we missed out on.
Yeah, totally understandable. And just briefly there, I didn't actually realize the history of how the injury actually came about. Was it through you got hacked or something went a bit too far? What sort of happened there?
Yeah, we were playing Denver at home in the Forum. He just hacked me, just came down extremely hard on a pass. Really didn't have nothing to do with the play. And, he just, he split the ligament on my thumb, with those hard African bones that he has. And I ended up not being able to play. And it's funny because when the team was announced, he was complaining. He was in the press complaining, defense, they don't honor defense. They don't think if you play defense, you can become an all-star, that whole thing. And then, he goes out and takes out an all-star and moves himself on in. So
I think he was quoted as saying something like the NBA can go to hell or something like that.
Yeah.
So obviously he was upset about not being given the nod in the first instance. Now, moving on to something a bit more upbeat, you had 2 full seasons with the Lakers, your 2 best scoring seasons where you averaged over 21 points a game, and you had a career-high 50 points against the Minnesota Timberwolves in LA. You hit a really long 3 that brought up your 50th point with a few seconds left. Does that game still reside within your memory bank?
Oh, yeah. And a lot of people, they remember it and they tell me about it. Hey, I was there, or I saw that game. And, it's so huge. And all the credit is due to my teammates, man. I am not a guy who can isolate and go one-on-one all day. They made extra passes that day that were just unbelievable. Nick, I think, had 12 to 15 assists. Vlade had 10 assists himself. Eldon, everybody was just moving the ball. It just happened to end up in my hands. Most of my points were mostly layups. I just was, just one of those days where the ball was finding its way to me and I was putting them back and, ending it the way I ended it. It had nothing to do with me. That was all the basketball gods making that whole night exciting.
That's such a great finish. And in the show notes to this episode, I'll include the YouTube links to where that game is online. And it's just some great moments. And particularly when you hit that last shot to get the 50th point, the crowd was so pleased. Your teammates were absolutely loving it. You were so excited. So really great to watch that sort of stuff even, 20 years later.
Yeah.
Now, you played for LA at a really interesting stage, as you were talking about. It was in the post-Showtime era, yet midway through the 1996 season, Magic Johnson returned to the NBA. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think yourself and Nick Van Exel were the co-captains of the Lakers at that stage. How did you feel that the team adjusted to having Magic back and then the spotlight again becoming really large on the LA Lakers, even more than it already was?
It was an uphill battle. You got to rewind even back further. My first year with the Lakers when James Worthy retired right after training camp after his mom passed away. That was a big blow to us because, James been there, done that. We were just the young pups coming in and we kind of got under his umbrella and he was kind of showing us the way.
Mm-hmm.
When he retired, we kind of came to each other and said, that was the last part of the Showtime era that was physically on the court with us, and he retired. I think we need to honor what they have done, but we need to make a team and a new statement on who we are and how we are. So we stopped calling ourselves the new Showtime or what have you, and we switched it around and call ourselves the Lake Show. And when we did that, that's when we made the commitment to each other. We knew we were missing that. We took the Spurs to the brink of almost eliminating them. And then we just didn't have the knowledge to take us over the hump. Earlier that year, we started asking Magic because he would come play with us in the summer. He would come pray with us during practice. We started asking Magic, would he come back? There's a possibility he'd come back. You're looking healthier. You're looking good. You're playing with your traveling team, come back and give us that knowledge, to get us over that hump. We got the talent, it's like what Charles gave us when I was in Phoenix, that superstar that we can stick our chest out. We know everything is going to be all right because he's a problem solver. It was great. He came in, we won tremendous amount of games. We had the motivation. We were going into the playoffs playing well. But then when things started to get rough, we all grew up watching Magic. So we kind of just gave him the ball and like, hey, get us out of this jam.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't the same Magic that we watched as a kid and a young Magic and that can go out and score 30 and give 25 assists and, 18 rebounds. That wasn't that Magic. But we needed to help him. I needed to be James Worthy for Magic, and Nick needed to be Byron Scott for Magic, and Eddie needed to be Michael Cooper for Magic, and, Vlade needed to be the Kareem for Magic, and on and on and on. But we weren't there. We didn't show up for him. And that was the disappointing part about it when I look back on it. Like, we had a chance to win a championship with one of the best players ever to do it, and we didn't show up like Worthy and Scott and Cooper and Abdul-Jabbar showed up for Magic.
That's a great way to look at it with those comparisons. Yeah, thanks for the honesty there. This next question will be a little bit controversial, but I have to ask. 5 minutes before a regular season game at the Forum, your Lakers refused to enter the locker room. There were cameras everywhere. And then you said to Coach Del Harris, and I quote, "There's got to be germs in there," or something. Now, I should add, of course, this took place in the iconic 1996 movie Space Jam. How was that experience of actually being in the film and playing a role there in that incredible movie, Space Jam?
At the time, you didn't know how huge it was.
Yeah.
Because, hey, they want you to come do this, and you come down into the arena and you film it and you're cool. But when the finished product came out, and man, just from a kid growing up, you ask anybody in the world, have you ever been in a movie or have you ever been seen with Bugs Bunny? Daffy Duck, Elmer Fudd, on and on. Like, it's like I'm in a movie, regardless of how big or small a role is.
Yeah.
I'm in a movie that's going to play on forever. They have been watching Pinocchio. Pinocchio was the first Disney movie made. They still watch Pinocchio to this day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in a movie with Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny has been living on for 50 plus years. He's going to continue to live on, on and on. And kids, when I'm dead and gone, are going to watch this Bugs Bunny movie. That's the biggest achievement that's going to last forever. They still may talk about the blindfold. They still may talk about 50 points. But being in a movie with Bugs Bunny, huge, huge, huge. I have kids. I don't even tell them I'm in the movie. I just let them watch the movie because they want to watch. They see Michael Jordan. They see Bugs Bunny. They want to watch the movie. I pop up in the movie and I am the greatest dad in the world because I'm in a movie with Bugs Bunny. It doesn't get any better than that. Even to this day, my youngest, he's 9, he watches Space Jam and can't believe it. And even my friends' kids, and they don't even know me as a basketball player. They know me as a guy that was in the movie with Bugs Bunny. They have never seen my games and probably will never see my games. But I'm in the movie with Bugs Bunny. That's all that matters.
That's fantastic. There was Del Harris, you had Vlade Divac, Anthony Pig Miller.
Yes.
A couple of other guys were around there. Do you recall the filming of that particular scene? And I think at the end, Del Harris, he persuaded you guys to wear gas masks and dress for the game in the hallway. So just classic stuff.
Yes, I remember it so vividly. But like I said, when it was going on, obviously, the part where Bugs Bunny was there was not being filmed. But then, while they were filming that, Michael had the Jordan Dome, and he would, after filming every day, he would come play with us and work out and get his game back. Being on the set of Warner Brothers, being around the writers and the directors and the cartoon illustrators, just a huge feeling, man. Just great. You're speechless.
Now, you mentioned the Jordan Dome there. I can't let that one go. There's very limited footage of those very famous talked about games at the Jordan Dome during the filming of Space Jam. Do you mind just talking a little bit about some of the atmosphere and the players that were involved? I know, the late Jack Haley was involved. You had a whole cast of characters. Reggie Miller, I'm pretty sure, was in amongst there. And you had greats of the game taking part in this modified, for Jordan's sake, arena. How did that sort of come to be? And you're part of that as well.
Well, like I said, Jordan had retired and came back. And to his standard, he had a subpar season, ending toward Orlando Magic.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't get to the finals. So he wanted to get himself back to Jordan ability to where he can play and participate on his level. So he had already signed a contract with Warner Brothers to do the movie as a retired player. But when he was coming back, he went back to him and said, hey, I need this facility because I need, after I finish filming, I don't need to be far away from the gym. I need to get straight in the gym and start working. And to be on set for, from 4:00 in the morning until 3 p.m. in the evening, and then go straight from the set to play against the top NBA players in the world and played as well as he played. It's unbelievable, man. You can't compare to what, it's ridiculous. I mean, we sat around all day, some by the pool, some all by the beach in California. It was in Hollywood. So, we chilling, not doing nothing. That dude's on the set all day with Bugs Bunny and green screening and doing all this. Take 3, take 37. All right, let's do it again. Makeup here. All right, make sure the sound man is right for 12 plus hours. And then he comes and plays with us, lift weights, plays with us, trains. It's just like, man, this dude's just unbelievable. Like, he's not even human. But like Michael Jordan, as you said, Reggie Miller, Magic Johnson, Dennis Rodman.
That's right.
Scottie Pippen, Eddie Jones. Oh, man, on and on. Reggie Theus, Pooh Rich. I mean, on and on and on. All the top players came through. Shaquille O'Neal. All of them came through to participate and play, man. And it's just shirts and skins. Let's play. The elite people would have their courtside seats. They're priceless.
Yeah, definitely.
Only allowed a certain amount of people in, but the people that came in, they had courtside seats right there. And they lined them up on both sides, and you got to see pure, no referee, no 20,000 people, no cameras, no interviews, none of that. Just pure, straight up Michael Jordan and the greatest basketball players on the planet at that time go at it for blood, sweat, and tears.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Now, in early 1997, the Lakers sent you, along with Ramil Robinson, to Phoenix in exchange for Robert Horry and Joe Klein. What was it feeling like returning back to Arizona?
It was a bittersweet thing because I didn't want to leave L.A. I wanted to stay in L.A. At the time that I got traded, I hadn't played. I was injured, so I hadn't played yet. So I was anxious to come back. I had rehabbed and got back strong. The week before I was traded, I just got back and cleared to practice. And then to get traded was really tough. But again, I was working on after coming back from rehab. So I was in shape. I was ready to go, eager to play. And the Suns at the time, it was kind of the reversal team. With the Lakers, we shined Shaquille. We traded Vlade for Kobe Bryant. We had expectations to win championships, at least contend for the championships, being one of the elite teams.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get traded to a team that's at the bottom. The Suns I think they had lost 14 straight games in a row. I think it was like the 15th game. They were like 1-15. And I saw it as another challenge. As soon as I got to the arena, we had a game that day. I flew in. I got in at halftime, and all the guys were sitting in the locker room. And I walked in and said, "What's up? Y'all ready to go to the playoffs?" and they was like, looking at me like, "What you talking about, man? We 1-14 right now." I'm like, "We going to the playoffs, man. Don't worry. I got this. Don't even worry about it." Jason Kidd was hurt at the time. After they went back out to play, we had a conversation in the locker room before going to sit on the bench. And we made up our mind that we're going to put this team in the playoffs. Like Jason, you haven't been to the playoffs yet. I've been there. Trust me, it's like no other. And I'm here now. I'm going to get in game shape. You get better. You'll be back in maybe 5 or 6 games. I'll hold the fort down until you get back. Together, we're going to put this team in the playoffs. That's exactly what happened. We end up, losing to Seattle, but we were at the bottom. It hasn't been done again. A team being 1-14 and then making the playoffs. And I'm not talking about barely making the playoffs. We were like the 6th seed. Like, we really made the playoffs, like a legitimate team. So ultimate turnaround right there again. I was sad to see leave home and Tinseltown and, knowing that they was probably going to win a championship with Shaquille and Kobe and the rest of those guys. But the opportunity was for myself and had a great feeling to resurrect that Phoenix Suns team back to where they were when I left.
Yeah, it was a great fight back after that really terrible start for the team to that season, as you mentioned. And I think you took the Sonics to a deciding 5th game as well. So you're awfully close to getting even into the second round. Now, in February of 98, Phoenix traded you to Dallas in return for Dennis Scott. And the 1998 Mavericks went 20-62. It was the first time that you'd experienced a considerably bad losing season. You had 2 full seasons with the Mavs. What did you make of the time spent in Dallas there, Cedric?
Well, I spent 3 years in Dallas, and 2 of them I was injured. I only played maybe 20 games each season, so it was real disappointing because of injuries. It was real hard because they were rebuilding, and I had never been a part of a team that was going into the rebuilding stage like they were. Just really not worried about wins, not developing, not getting the players that that were already playing there better. They were trying to get the players that weren't that good, develop them to get better. So, tough scenario. At the same time, understanding that, that it's a business and you got to adjust with the business and, go accordingly to how they want to run things. I got the opportunity to get out of there, but, it was to another losing franchise I wasn't concerned about winning, which was Detroit. And I knew it was the last year of my contract, and I had to get out of there to go to Miami. I had the opportunity to play with Pat Riley, which is childhood dream, and be with a great team that wanted to compete for a championship and play hard. First time playing in the Eastern Conference, so it was a little new adjustment for me. But I thought I did well, and that was it.
Yeah, you're only 31 years old during your final NBA season, and then you played in some various leagues around America, and I didn't actually know this. You joined the Harlem Globetrotters for a little while as well, and then played professionally overseas for a bit too. Leaving the NBA and then even that time with the Globetrotters and some of your later career opportunities, sort of what do you make of those looking back now?
Man, it was tough. Me being so young, leaving the league, my quest was to win a championship. I got a lot of offers from really bad teams. I had my opportunity to play with bad teams when I was with Dallas that didn't want to win. Now, having a bad team that wants to win, like Phoenix, when I went back to Phoenix, the team was bad. They wanted to win. They just couldn't put it together. It's a little different than playing with a team that is a bad team and they don't want to win. I didn't want to be in a rebuilding stage. So if I didn't have an opportunity to play with a contender or a team that wanted to win a championship, I turned those offers down. And I said, all right, 11 years, great years. Let's see what the world has to offer. Visit a couple of countries, Russia, Israel, Japan, Philippines. Got to travel with the Globetrotters, have some fun, be entertaining. I'm always a big fan of them. Another childhood dream, being a Globetrotter.
Yeah.
That was huge. It's amazing what they do. It's amazing the people that they touch. Never got an opportunity to see them live, but I watched them all the time on television when they came on ABC and loved every minute of it. And playing with them was just a dream come. Just putting that red, white, and blue jersey on every night, sometimes 2 games a day, just gave you vibrance and made you, you had the competitive edge, but you also wanted to entertain. You looking at kids in the stands with their parents, thinking about, man, that was me. I was a kid thinking, wow, how do they do those tricks? And how do they do this? And, oh, that's an unbelievable shot. And this, man, it was just the greatest feeling in the world. It's one of the top feelings of my basketball career, man, just being able to put those jerseys on them, putting a Laker jersey on, a Globetrotter jersey on. Unbelievable. I mean, it's just speechless, man. Just great feelings, great opportunities. And, and then had an opportunity to come back with the Phoenix Suns and work with them and jumped at the chance to stay, kind of connected to the game.
Just some fantastic memories there, and great to hear that you hold them so close to your heart, of course. Now, I'm very respectful of your time, so I just have a couple of quick questions before we wrap things up, and thanks very much for taking the time to talk. Basketball Digest, they used to have a regular feature which was called The Game I'll Never Forget. Is there a single game from your career that springs to mind?
Wow.
Might be a bit tough to narrow down to one.
Yeah, that's there's a stretch of games where I was completely I thought was on fire when I was in Phoenix, and Charles Barkley was hurt. Kevin Johnson was hurt. Danny Ainge was hurt. And I carried the team through like 4 games against Chicago, against Boston, against New York, against top teams, against Detroit. That stretch of games is just unbelievable. That's probably my, those 4 games when those guys were out and they had to rely on myself and Dan Majerle for wins and losses was just unbelievable. Playing against Michael, playing against Scottie, playing against Patrick Ewing and his Knicks, his tough Knicks team, playing against Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars and his tough Detroit Pistons teams in Boston, with the tough teams that they had with Bird and Parrish and McHale and them. That just topped it all off, man. Just having 4 games, just unbelievable play out of myself.
That's great to hear. Do you have a favorite arena that you ever played in?
Oh, I love playing in the Fabulous Forum.
Yeah.
That place was so great. I love playing there. I love playing in the Madhouse in McDowell. That's Phoenix Suns' old arena. Those 2 places were similar. They were really close-knit arenas and, gave you a feel of, that you were connected to the fans. Now, the arenas are so huge and now so big, it's kind of hard to, have an arena that's really that close. But Those two are really good. Madison Square Garden, obviously the Mecca in New York City, and in Boston Garden, the old Boston Garden was unbelievable too.
Great arenas, no doubt. Now, in college, I believe you wore number 31, and then for most of your NBA career, number 23 was your primary number. Mm-hmm. Is there any particular relevance to those digits?
31, I wore. Well, we just back it up a little bit. I was a huge fan of George Gervin as growing up. Me and my brother both. I played on most of the teams with him, so obviously he was the older player and the better player. So he got 44, and I got 31 because it equaled 4. 3 + 1 = 4.
That's great.
So I wore that, and he wore that at Cal State Fullerton. So I wore it at Ventura because I wanted to match his number. And then when I went to Fullerton, I just kept the number. And then going into the NBA, I still wanted number 31, but Kurt Rambis was on our team, and obviously he made that number so famous, and he was wearing it. So I couldn't wear that one. I chose number 8 because 8 is 2 4s. 4 + 4 = 8. So in the summer league, I wore number 8, but then I didn't know when the regular season came about that Eddie Johnson had number 8. He wore number 8 on his jersey. So I had to give that up. And I happened to be in the locker room, and I was looking at my first rookie card. I had never seen my rookie card, and I saw my rookie card. This is before I even played the game. And they were like, okay, Eddie got that. You can't have, what number do you want? And I turned the card over, and it was a number 23 card, the 23rd one. So I said, number 23. Obviously Michael was huge with number 23. And, at the time, I didn't think I was going to last as long in the league. So I figured, why not get the best player's number with my name on the back, even though it's a different jersey, and I have some great memorabilia. So it just kind of stuck,
That's so good.
It kind of stuck.
I love that. Thanks for sharing the story behind that. It's always fascinates me as to a lot of players do tend to have some sort of relevance with their jersey selections, and that's another one of the great stories I've heard behind the scenes. So thank you. Now, you seem to be as busy these days as you were at the height of your NBA playing career. We've touched on your love for music. I believe you've got your own foundation, the Cedric Ceballos Foundation. What other interests do you have these days as well, Ced?
Well, right now, I have a basketball that I created to help kids out. That I push through my foundation. It's a basketball that whistles to make sure your rotation and your shot is good. So it's good for training kids and also people who want to start shooting jump shots to get their rotation right, so they can have a nice sweet touch around the basket in long range. And then also, I just launched a business, the Stream World. We're streaming movies and television shows, music and sports live through your internet through a box. So, I'm kind of busy with those two things right now, trying to get those two off the ground, and just continue to be my number one priority of the best dad I can be.
Yeah, understandably. In the show notes of this episode, I'll include some links to some of those things that you've talked about as well, so people can check those out also. It's been an absolute pleasure having a chance to speak with you today. I want to thank Paul Corliss and the Retired Players Association for helping set this up. Thanks again for making yourself available, and all the best in the future, Ced.
It's such a privilege talking to you, Adam, and good luck with the rest of the season. I hope the Australian guy comes out and wins another big game so they can win a championship in Cleveland.
Yeah, well, thank you. And just quickly, Game 4 is literally 40 minutes away as we record this. Matthew Dellavedova, of course, you're referring to. Andrew Bogut, of course, is the opposing centre for the Warriors. So just quickly, what's your take on where the finals are heading in the last 3 or 4 games we've got left?
I think it's great. I think it's a great opportunity for both players, Bogus and also Dellavedova. They both have intensities. They both have great skills. They both bring a lot to their team. I'm a fan of history. So I'm going to go with Cleveland on this because I really want that city, and what LeBron has done. I just think he's an unbelievable player, and his role players are just stepping up, well. But the offensive power of Golden State is still dangerous enough where they can get on fire and win 3 games and win this championship. So if Cleveland doesn't come to play, going to be some tough games coming up, but I hope Cleveland wins and, Bogans and as well as Dellavedova play well.
Yeah, indeed.
And if you see my old teammate Chris Anstey out there, tell him I said hello.
Well, I'm glad you actually mentioned that because I was respectful of your time, so I didn't want to go into it too much, but you did play with Chris Anstey in Dallas. And do you have any quick memories at all about spending time or having an Australian on the roster?
He was one of the nicest guys on the team. He always worked hard, stayed professional. He always kept a good attitude. Unfortunately, he didn't, blossom to be the best player that they thought that Don Nelson and Lil Don Nelson thought he was going to be. But he was effective, had a dangerous shot, really long, and the ability to compete. He had some games out there where he really showed some great flashes of being, one of the best players in the league, but just couldn't put it together. And that's the tough thing about playing for team, don't want to win. You don't get the full potential of guys, especially like Chris, who are developing to become a great player, because they don't ingrain priority. They just say, all right, well, you'll get better. All right, you'll get better. So they don't really push responsibility on you. They just say, hey, next time. But, when you come to winning team, it's a demand to play well and play well now each and every time. So I think if he would have went to a championship caliber team, he would have been a different player and would have been in the league for a long, long time.
Now I actually think about it, Chris and yourself played in a great game against the Chicago Bulls. I think you took them to overtime and beat them in Dallas. You might have actually even hit a sideline three-pointer in the closing minutes of the fourth quarter to, I think, get the overtime period started. You had a great fight back, I think, to then win in overtime. Is that a game that springs to mind at all?
Yeah, that's one of the hugest games, another big game of my career, being that was Michael Jordan's last regular season loss in a Bulls uniform. And I was happy to give him that. Great opportunity for us in the city of Dallas, even the franchise. Mark Cuban had taken over at the time. And it was a big game for us. Dennis Rodman coming home. He's from Dallas, so that was huge. And just Michael, Scottie, Phil Jackson, the whole Chicago mystique was just anytime they come in anybody's arena, it's a big game. So being able to hit the shot to send it into overtime and then playing really well against another time, I told you I played so great against Scottie Pippen, and for us to get that win was big.
Yeah, definitely, especially in a season where you didn't have a lot of great moments overall as a team. So that would have been an uplifting moment for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again, Cedric, and all the best. And I hope that we can perhaps chat again at some stage in the future.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. I welcome your interaction with the show. Suggest topics or guests you want to hear conversations with. Leave a voicemail. Simply visit inallairness.com/voice. Click start recording. Leave a message and press stop. You can even listen back before submitting. Press send and you're done. Time to share some amazing feedback from a fan of the show. A huge thanks to Tars4. Now, I know that's not his real name. In this review, he mentions the name Aaron, and Aaron is a great mate of mine who is the co-host of the NB85 series that we've been doing, inallairness.com/NB85, where we cover the 1985 NBA season, which of course was also Michael Jordan's rookie season. It's from the Australian iTunes store. It is titled Simply the Best, and it reads as follows. As a 38-year-old man who fell in love with the NBA at the start of the 1989 season, and that's when the ABC here in Australia would show abridged versions of games, finding this podcast was like finding a path leading back to some of my fondest memories of adolescence. Many people in my age group realised just how incredibly lucky we were to follow the career of the greatest player in basketball history as it happened. He was simply a stunning athlete and competitor to watch, and I don't care what anybody says, the basketball was amazing. As I've gotten older, I've lost contact with many of my basketball-loving friends. As a result, I have no outlet for my basketball passion. I tried chatting with my wife about it and received nothing but the 1,000-yard stare. But finding the In All Airness podcast has filled the gap perfectly. Listening to Adam, Aaron, and the guests banter in such a relaxed yet very informed, researched, and professional manner feels just like an extended conversation with fellow basketball tragics. It's awesome. I'll often download the latest episode and listen to it either walking the dog, running on the treadmill, or listening on the stereo in my bulldozer. That's a good image. The slightly obscure guest choices have proven to be golden. I never, in a million years, thought some of the lesser-known names to appear on the podcast would enthrall me as much as they have. Not only is this podcast entertaining, but there is so much to learn about the game and the era that we love. I feel so much more well-rounded in my knowledge base thanks to Adam. Well done. Please keep up the good work. I will continue to spread the word around about this podcast. I think it's the very least I can do in return for the hours upon hours of listening pleasure that you've given me. Thanks, Adam. Wow. Now, Tars4, you must reach out to me, please. Contact me through Twitter or via the Facebook page, whatever it may be. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for that incredible review. Can't thank you enough. Now, worldwide, the show currently has 52 reviews, 49 on iTunes and 3 on Stitcher. Thanks for your continued support. If you add a review, I'd love to also read it out on a future episode. Your ratings and reviews are definitely one of the best ways you can support the podcast. If you enjoy the show, please tell your basketball-loving friends about it. Your word-of-mouth recommendations are worth their weight in gold, and it's one of the key ways that can help increase the listenership of the show. You can subscribe to my show in various ways. iTunes, visit inallairness.com/review, add it to your Stitcher playlist, inallairness.com/Stitcher. You can also subscribe on Pocket Casts, Player FM, TuneIn Radio, and other podcatchers. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show and share my web address with your friends and colleagues, inallairness.com. Check out the podcast archive for plenty more episodes with high-profile guests. Follow me on Twitter @inallairness. Please add your like to the show's social hub, facebook.com/inallairness. Join me next time for another edition of the show.